Childhood images of counting. The origins of counting come from our own lives. At the beginning, we start saying 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like an incantation.
6, 7, 8.
It's just words and sounds.
2, 3, 4,
5, 6, 7, 8. Left,
2,
left, left, right, left. I left my wife and my 43 sons. I left.
I left.
I left because I thought it was right.
I left.
Right.
I left.
Right.
I right.
Left. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Lay them straight. 9, 10. A big fat hen. 1, 2. Buckle my shoe. 3, 4. Shut the door. 5, 6. Pick up sticks. 7, 8. Lay them straight. 9, 10. A big fat hen. Say it again. Say it again. Where counting is a kind of incantation, it's a kind of magic. We can count on our fingers. We can count on our toes. We can count on our knuckles. Do you know how many knuckles you have? How many spaces in between your knuckles?
You can count them while we're. You can.
There was a woman who told me her mother taught her that you could count the days between your menstrual periods on your knuckles because there were 28 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 14 more here. So you could find out which day of the month your period would start on your knuckles. We count on our bodies, we count with our movement, we count with our voices. Children's games start by slapping fingers, tapping toes, moving our feet, moving through space. We can talk about our bodies, about 5, 10, 15, 20, 31 hours of labor with my first child.
37.
37. And only 5 with a second. 50 years till menopause. Been there, done that, right? That's an old story. How many years till we get our pensions? Do you have a pension?
Forget it.
No. The concerns change as time goes by. But we start to clapping our numbers. Who
Stole the cookies from the cookie jar.
Was it you, number 1?
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Not me.
And who?
Was it you, number 2?
Not me.
Yes, you.
Could it be?
Yes, it could.
Was you,
No,
number
it wasn't.
3?
Yes, you.
Couldn't be.
Couldn't be.
Then
Who stole the cookies from the cookie jar?
All right, children, somebody stole some cookies from the cookie jar. It's not allowed. It's against the rules of our class that we established in the first week of September. And now somebody needs to be punished. Could
There'll be
somebody
no food in the chemistry lab.
That's right. We could get into trouble. We could be sued. We need to know who stole the cookies, and I don't see anyone offering themselves. No, I know it wasn't you. You're only saying that. You're an intuition. All right, we'll have to do a counting out and figure out who should be punished for this. We'll do it in the traditional way. Ina, Dina, Dinah, Dus, Catalowina, Wina, Was. Spit, spot, must be done. Twiddlem, twaddlem, 21. Just kidding. But counting out was done to decimate rival armies, to decide who would live and who would die. There's an old math problem, the Josephus problem, where the captain of the ship is deciding which of the prisoners will be thrown overboard to be drowned. And you try to figure out where you would stand in that circle not to be counted out of life. Nobody wants to be counted out. We counted, as little girls in my day and age, we counted while we skipped, and we counted when we clapped hands. I will now attempt to skip. I can't guarantee very much here, because I haven't done it for a while. This is not really a proper skipping rope, but the ones from the dollar store were too short. All right, I'll try this then. Cinderella, dressed in yellow, how many times did she kiss her fellow? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We learned to count by 2s, we learned to count by 5s, and it had a certain sound, a certain melody. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, 30. And that's how we learn to count, by seeing it, by doing it, by feeling it in our own selves. Wow, I really got winded from that little bit of skipping. I'm going to try that more often. All right. And then we bounced balls as well. And we lifted our leg up for every certain number. So 1, 2, 3, O'Leary, 4, 5, 6, O'Leary, 7, 8, 9, O'Leary, 10, O'Leary, catch me. Catch me. Numbers call us home again. Numbers catch us. And take a deep breath, and I'll start the first infinity reading. 2 kinds of infinity. There are at least 2 kinds of infinity. An infinity of bigness, bigger than the span of my limbs, bigger than all our arms, our lives, stretched out together, bigger than a zillion to the power of a zillion, bigger than all the universes stretched out in a row. An infinity that can always go one more. And then there's an infinity of smallness, so small that our fingernails couldn't pinch it, so small that it's smaller than a microscopic germ, smaller than the atom of an atom, smallness beyond belief, and yet infinitely smaller than that. I should have brought my reading glasses. If you had the most powerful microscope in the world and you looked at the tiniest part of it, there would be revealed an infinity of so much smaller parts that make it up, an infinity of ever tinier, perfectly formed bits within bits, an infinity of mirror on mirror, infinite regress. The external infinity, the bigger and bigger infinity, is made up of discrete parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just keep counting and you never stop. You can always add one more, and one more, and one more. Forever. I don't think I'm going to live forever. Well, imagine that there was something that did live forever, some machine, some robot, some slave, and it could do the counting for you. Each number is a distinct point, and perhaps we or something or someone else could continue counting discreetly along this list forever, since we have the words to do it. The internal infinity that keeps getting smaller and smaller by splitting and mirroring is a continuum. And this infinity there's a fundamental tension in between these 2 kinds of infinities, the discrete and the continuous. There is an infinite number of fractions between 0 and 1, an infinite number of fractional additions alone. One of Zeno's paradoxes of movement says that if I were trying to get to Celeste, perhaps she's a target and I'm an arrow, at some point I have to get halfway to her. And then I have to get halfway of the halfway left. And then halfway of the halfway left. And halfway of the halfway left. And halfway of the halfway left. My feet are too big to continue doing this, but I really could never reach the target as the arrow, because that kept being split. And I felt this way as a high school student when there was a certain boy that I really liked, and it seemed that we were asymptotes, always getting closer and never actually being able to reach one another. There are at least 2 kinds of infinity. The internal infinity, the infinity of continuous subdivision, becomes clear to us when we see fractal forms, in nature or on a computer. The faces of a fractal split up into infinite regress, each one self-similar to the others. As we look closely at a fractal, new fractal surfaces reveal themselves, endlessly generated. It seems you could go endlessly deeper into the form, an infinite generating machine. Infinite generations, genetic mutations, the whole and the tiniest part, the tiny holographic window that reveals the whole image. It's an infinity of generation, of reproduction, a cycle of the different, while the bigger and bigger infinity is a cycle of the same, unchanging units marching on, one after the other beyond the horizon. There are at least two infinities, a masculine one and a feminine one. I'll call the external bigger and bigger infinity masculine, an infinity of endless extension. Anaximander said, wherever the warrior stands, he can extend his spear farther. An eternity of infinite extension, a masculine concern. I'll call the internal, endlessly divisible continuum infinity a feminine infinity, an infinity of worlds within worlds, our children's children's children coiled within our womb, an infinity of infinite capacity. One of my favorite pieces of writing on this subject is by Zhuangzi, the Chinese scholar of Taoism. And it's about Cook Ding, who talks about the secret of caring for life by cutting up oxen. When I first began cutting up oxen, all I could see was the ox itself. After 3 years, I no longer saw the whole ox. And now I go by spirit, and I don't look with my eyes. Perception and understanding have come to a stop, and spirit moves where it wants. I go along with the natural makeup, striking the big hollows, guide the knife through the big openings, and follow things as they are. So I never touch the smallest ligament or tendon, much less a main joint. I'm sorry, Celeste, that we're talking about knives and joints.
They will be in my knee next week.
I've had this knife of mine for 19 years. Isn't that odd? 19 years. And I've cut up thousands of oxen with it. And yet the blade is as good as if it had just come from the grindstone. There are spaces between the joints. And the blade of the knife has really no thickness. If you put something that has no thickness into such a space, there is plenty of room for play. More than enough room for the blade to play within it. The spaces in between are infinite and leave us more than enough room for play. If external space is not available, perhaps we can dive into the ground, into that infinite rabbit hole of the infinite spaces in between. Jeanette Winterson writes in the character of a life prisoner on an island prison for the insane. This is not a barren place. I go from my room in the morning and make the journey to the garden, very slowly, feeling the walls with my hands, getting a sense of surface, of texture. I breathe carefully, smelling the air, and when the sun is up, I turn my face that way and feel its warmth on it. At the garden, although I have a spade and a fork, I often dig with my hands in the dirt, feeling the dirt between my fingers and on my skin. I like to feel the earth and squeeze it tight in my hands or crumble it between my fingers. Here in the prison, there is room and time to love slowly. You'll never get out, Henri, not if they think you're mad. Why would I want to get out? They're so preoccupied with getting out that they miss what's here. Where would I go? I have a room, I have a garden, company, and time for myself. Aren't these the things people ask for? There are at least two kinds of infinity. this reading, Objectified Desire, from Angela Carter's The Infernal Desire Machines of Dr. Hoffman. Les lois de nos désirs sont les dés sans loisir. The laws of our desires are dice that never rest. Peep show of objectified desires. Peep show, a canvas tent, colored but faded, left out too long in the rains of the seasons. A sagging box of pink striped canvas with a flap drawn back and held with a fraying cord. A yellowed playbill in old-fashioned lettering announced the 7 wonders of the world and 3 lifelike dimensions awaited one inside. The machines were of ancient rugged cast iron, decorated with impressions of cupids, eagles, and ribbons. Each was of the size and shape of an old-fashioned oven, and at the front, a pair of glass eyepieces jutted out on long, hollow stalks. I examined all the exhibits in turn. The peep show proprietor was blind and lame. Dr. Hoffman gave me a set of his samples and let me loose, he said. Let me wander up and down, here and there, hither and thither, pushing my wheelbarrow in front of me, tripping over stones. Plenty of samples in my sack. Lots and lots of samples. Dozens of scores of thousands of samples. You think they bred inside that sack there? The sack was immensely heavy and contained innumerable small boxes, each marked on the lid with an indented device so that the old man in his blindness could read what it said. Each one of these boxes contained the models, the slides, and pictures which went inside the machines. A universality of figures, men, women, beasts, drawing rooms, auto-da-fés, and scenes of every conceivable type were contained in these boxes, none of which was bigger than my thumb. Set of samples, he explained. Look at them. Do they look like toys? They are symbolic representations of the basic constituents of the universe. If they are properly arranged, all possible situations in the world and every possible mutation of these situations can be represented by them. The difference between a symbol and an object is quantitative, not qualitative. Everything that is possible to imagine can also exist. In the imagination, nothing is past. Nothing is forgotten. Mutable combinations, the peep show proprietor would say, swig of beer and belch. Then, scooping up a handful of magic samples, he would toss them in the air like dice, letting them fall with such solemnity that I was almost tempted to believe with him that the haphazard patterns they made as they fell were mirrored and echoed in the flesh of the beleaguered city. From my investigations in that sack, I came to the conclusion that the models did indeed represent everything it was possible to imagine and believe by means of either direct simulation or a symbolism derived from Freud. To express a desire authentically, the peep show owner said, is to satisfy it categorically. I puzzled over this gnomic utterance for a long time. Was he referring to Mendoza's other theory, that if a thing were artificial enough, it became genuine? Perhaps it was Baudrillard, not Mendoza. I touched his shoulder lightly to wake him for his morning tea, and in his sleep he exhorted, objectify your desires.
Mystery of flesh. The mystery of flesh, roses embedded in stone. Passion has come into my hollow spaces and made a home, awakening the resonances of my own physicality in ways that go beyond time. Is bodily experience part of transcendence, beyond the earth by means of the earth? Earth to earth, flesh to flesh. We meet spirit. Sacred and secular lie together, creating a bath of ecstasy. Our wounds become a place where mystery dwells, the mysteries of each other, born in each other's flesh. Passion writes her sentences in these acts, the acts of time, the acts which the discourse is leading to, but I hadn't written these sentences in a very long time. A very long time. It felt like an ancient memory. A memory I was coming home to. Where does one go after experiencing the ancient memory of becoming? Becoming in motion, becoming in time, becoming in passion. Passion resonates within the pages of my heart constantly. I seem to live it, breathe it, think about it, yearn for it most of all. I catch it in the in-between like everything else. But somehow think I have been barred from it. I hold back, resist, and in the resisting, I harness it. Passion stops. There isn't one container for passion, like one relationship of lover to lover. It dribbles, melts, trembles into all of life. We want to contain it, but passion has become an endangered species with no place to find its home. So she cries out, burns out, wanting to recreate herself, not for the sake of desire in some Lacanian notion, not just for passion, but for passion to find a home in the most earthly of lives, the most mundane of elements, the laundry and meals, the footnotes and shopping, the mystery of flesh.
Jan.
Yes. Each person?
The rhythm of counting hypnotizes us and lulls us into a trance of repetition, drumming rhythmically while we count and count again, round and round like the sounds, lifting sounds out of meaning. We are aware of the physicality of the sounds. Pebble words roll under our tongues. Sounds are born on the column of air that is our breath. Words are spoken by our voices, overlapping, dance themselves into being, circles of counting that lead in and out of language. Like in a dancer, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. You'll try this poem as a round. This is called Counting Out Rhyme by Edna St. Vincent Millay. We'll try it slowly, and we'll divide in, just like doing row, row, row your boat. We'll start with this group here. Do it with me. Then group up to Henry, and then the group from Sean. All right, so so this group will keep going, just as you do with row, row, row your boat, until we have everybody doing it. So we'll start quite slowly. Ready? Silver bark of beech and sallow, bark of yellow birch and yellow twig of willow. Silver bark of beech and sallow, bark of yellow birch and yellow twig of willow.
Stripe of green and
Silver bark of beech and sallow, bark of yellow birch and yellow twig of willow.
pale as moonbeams.
String of popple, pale as moonbeam, wood of orchid, loop of apple, bark of poplar, limb of elder, wood of poplar, pale as moonbeam, wood of oak for yoke and barnbeam, wood of barnbeam, yellow birch and silver bark of willow, and hollow stem of stripe of tall and yellow twig of willow, seed and leaf of apple, wood of poplar,
Green of moosewood maple.
wood of popple, pale as moonbeam, wood of oak for yoke and barnbeam, wood of green and moosewood maple, silver seed of beech and yellow, stem of elder, tall and yellow, twig of willow, pale as moonbeam, wood of oak for yoke and barnbeam, wood of one last time. Silver bark of beech and hollow, stem of elder, tall and yellow, twig of willow,
Yoke and barnbeam.
wood of hornbeam, silver bark of beech and yellow, stem of elder, tall and yellow, twig of willow.
Willow.
Ritual counting. David Pym, my thesis supervisor, writes, mathematics exemplifies a wish for permanence, an expression of a longing. What are two of mathematicians' prime concerns? invariance and infinity. One of the current ritual utterances in mathematics education. What changes and what stays the same? That which does not change does not die. That which does not change does not die. Brian Rotman, writing of the desire of the mathematician, claims the desire's object is a pure, timeless, unchanging discourse where all assertions stay proved once they're proved. They stay proved forever and must somehow always have been true. Where all questions are determinate and all answers totally certain. Infinite counting requires a disembodied agent, a ghost, a machine, an angel, required by classical mathematics to give meaning to this endless counting. I do not want to be counted by this ghost. I do not want to be counted by this ghost. I do not want to be counted by this ghost. I do not want to be counted by this ghost. Death, counting, continually counting, does not count me. Fire, counting continually counting, does not count me. Emptiness, counting continually counting, does not count me. Wealth, counting continuously counting, it does not count me. Day, counting continually counting the days, continually counting, does not count me. The spider's web is round the corn bin. Our bodies are counting, continually counting through arithmetic, which is all about time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, begin again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, begin again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 24, 6, 32, 11, 12, 45, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Arithmetic is all about time. Geometry, on the other hand, is about space. The spheres that are our eyeballs. The triangles and quadrilaterals we can make with our bodies. The circles we can walk in. Circling around, we feel the circles, we feel how it feels to circle around. Dizzy. The whole world is circling. Circling around. We feel circles in so many different ways. There are many different possible definitions of a circle. A circle could mean try to go straight, but you get leaned into the middle. A circle could mean you spin on your axis, or you are like an eyeball. Geometry is all about space, large and small. But in our body's world, it must end at some time. What seems to be an endless, infinite, has an ending after all. Or perhaps not. Beyond the span of this piece of cloth.
Beyond the span of water.
Beyond the span of the sky.
Beyond the span of time.
Beyond the span of air.
Beyond the span of this conference.
Beyond the span of days.
Beyond the span of the economy.
Beyond the span of your degree.
Beyond the span of pizza.
Beyond the span of the clock. Beyond the span of our world.
Beyond the span of the script.
This is true.
Beyond the span.
Return inside yourself and measure out your limits by working here and now within your powers.
No more, no less than they permit. You at any moment in time.
No more, no less than the person you are at each moment, you dreamer and preacher of infinity.
You have enough power and not too much. You are enough and not too much. Live!
Allowing us a present which can be shared.
Allowing a present which can be
Shared. Allowing a present which can be shared. Thank you.
Thank you.